Hey all, here are OS Reviews. In our other video, we just checked out the QCY T13s, which were a pair of pretty decent ultra-budget pair of buds for only 20 bucks, but now we're taking a look at one of the higher-end models from them, but in the grand scheme of things, it still is super affordable. So this is the new HT03 wireless buds, and this pair does come with active noise cancellation. It also comes with a low-latency gaming mode, battery life lasting up to 24 hours with the case, and then when removed, the buds themselves can get you around 6 hours of continuous music listening, but with ANC turned on, that's a little closer to 5 hours, which is still around average. Overall, these are not quite as much of an endurance champion as the aforementioned T13s that could get up to 40 hours, and they come with a few interesting color options this time around. It has 10mm dynamic drivers, which are bigger than the 7mm found on the other model, and they support the regular audio codecs like SBC and AAC using Bluetooth 5.1. So still at this price, we won't find things like Qualcomm's aptX or LDAC, but that's kind of to be expected since these are still budget buds. And just like their other current generation models, QCY has a companion app which you can use to further tweak things like what the touch controls can be mapped to if you want to change the layout or even change the EQ. Otherwise, they have the typical sweat resistance, so you can use them when going to the gym, when it's raining, and they should still survive. So inside the box here, we have just the headphones themselves, and we have the black version, in addition to some spare silicone tips, a USB Type-C charging cable, and a quick user guide. Almost immediately, a couple of remarks being that this is a piano black glossy surface, so it does attract fingerprints and smudges a little bit easily, although the paint has a few sprinkles inside of it, so it looks a little bit more interesting if you're shining it onto the light. It slightly glimmers. We have the QCY logo on the top, which just like I mentioned before, their logo has slightly changed since the last time that we saw a product from this company. So the hinge here does have a sensor that can automatically turn it on or off, so it will start to pair with your phone the moment that you flip it open. And the buds here are magnetic, so they are pretty easy to pop in and pop out just for quickly charging. They stay in place pretty easily. The buds have the same overall kind of texture and color as the casing, so it's another glossy surface with some sprinkles that make it look a little bit more interesting. There is a slight chrome ring on the bottom that breaks up the design a little bit, and also a slight divot on both of the sides, which is a little reminiscent of the aforementioned AirPods, and otherwise just has a very conventional shape on the rear that you can pop in with the silicone tip, and doesn't feel too loose either. So I was able to move around, jog a bit, and they still were staying in place. They are pretty lightweight for a pair of buds that have active noise cancellation. Size comparison between this case and the regular AirPods are also going to be a little bit shorter by stem, but not by too much so. Now moving over to the software experience, these do have pop-up notification support via the QCY companion app. So if you download that, you will get this notification every single time that you open up the lid of the case. And then inside of the consolidated app, which is again the same one used to connect to all of their other buds, it looks fairly clean and simple on this current generation with these orange themes matching their logo. We can see the HT03s and the battery percentage on the left and the right buds, but we can't see the battery left in the case, which is again something that maybe they can add in a future update. And on these, we do have 3 controls that you can trigger. So there's a single, double, and a triple tap that can do different things. By default, the single tap is disabled just to prevent any accidental hits, but if you want to use it, here are all the commands that you can go between, including changing the volume higher or lower, or assigning it to something like jumping into the gaming mode, which is for low latency, or turning the ANC on or off. So you can remap through all of these things, which is pretty convenient. Always like to see this level of customization. And finally, down below here, we can change the EQ. So there's going to be the same presets that we saw from before, including pop music, bass boosted, rock, and soft. So for example, if I want to take a closer look at here, this is how the sound signature will change based on different elements that you're emphasizing, whether it's bass, lower frequencies, or higher frequencies for vocals, things like that. And then a classic and customize will allow you to further tweak this yourself if you want more granular control. You can also cycle the ANC mode on or off yourself, including this is actually outdoors is off mode, so maybe they could rechange the text here just to make that a little bit more clear. And then the second here is the audio transparency mode, although the translation here is still partially in Chinese. So again, just like before, I'll say that the app maybe still needs a little bit of work to further refine it, but it's pretty easy to figure out. And you can also turn the low latency gaming mode on or off down below here under other settings, see if there's any firmware updates you want to push over. Overall, the app is simple and gives you all the consolidated info at a glance. Moving into the audio quality and performance next, I have to say that the HT03s overall sound better than expected. Sound signature isn't too far off from the aforementioned T13s that we just saw from them, which is to say they do have a nice whack in terms of bass. So if you're listening to a drum beat or any bass boosted tracks, it is fairly satisfying, but at the same time, it's not out of control compared to vocals and trebles can still shine through. Characteristics which are good include that once again, they don't have much distortion or static in the background, so you won't hear any hissing or anything like that, just aside from the music itself. And for the most part, they get plenty loud. Connectivity was also pretty stable, and in the low latency mode, it definitely did make a difference when it comes to playing back things like PUBG that require just a faster connection. Still, keep in mind that these aren't going to be audiophile grade buds at the end of the day, so arguably if you're paying more for a pair of Sonys or Bose, then you will still get to squeeze out some slightly more detail in some of the higher end trebles, for example. But for what these are, which are budget buds, I do think they already are performing quite well. In terms of the aforementioned active noise cancellation, it does make a difference. Canceling up to 35 decibels is their advertisement. What I will say though is, like most budget ANC buds, it does the best job with low frequency sounds. So things like engines as well as fan noises will get reduced, but things like voices of people talking is harder to cancel out. So that's more or less it as far as our quick hands-on review of the QCY HT03s. So these are going to be a bit more stylish, I think, than some of the other models that we've seen from them in the past. Overall, they sound decent when it comes to giving you a nice thump in terms of bass, but at the same time enjoyable when it comes to general pop music listening on these. Plenty loud, didn't have any really connectivity issues, and again, a pretty decent software app that can expand and customize things a little bit more. You can check out more details if interested in the links down below. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.